I've been in aviation for 5 decades, and I've seen airlines pull every trick in the book to squeeze a few extra bucks out of travelers. But what happened to Piper Sterling recently? That takes the cake. They hit her with a $95 fee just for flying alone. You won't believe how airlines are secretly charging you extra for flying solo. This isn't just about saving money. It's about outsmarting the system that thinks you won't notice. Imagine the buzzing main terminal at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson, one of the largest airports in the world. The air thrummed with the energy of thousands of journeys beginning and ending. Standing at a shiny Delta counter, beaming with youthful optimism, was Piper Sterling, a 27-year-old aspiring travel vlogger. She clutched her carry-on, her camera rolling, excitedly documenting her solo trip to Miami, a budget travel hack adventure. First stop, Miami. Time to find those hidden gems and save some cash, she cheerfully announced to her lens. Piper approached the counter, ready to check in. A cheerful agent, Brenda Jenkins, in her late 30s, greeted her with a practiced smile, but as Brenda typed, her smile faltered. "Miss Sterling," she said, her expression softening to apology. "It looks like there's an unexpected charge here. A solo traveler surcharge for $95. Piper's jaw dropped. Her camera, still rolling, captured her disbelief. "A what? What's a solo traveler surcharge? I've never heard of that," she cracked, her voice now raw with frustration. Brenda, with a shrug of regret, explained it was a new policy rolled out in late 2025, an automatic application from their dynamic pricing algorithm. Piper felt her stomach sink, cornered and helpless. Her tight budget was already threatened by this $95 hit. Reluctantly, she handed over her credit card. But as the transaction went through, she looked directly into her camera and whispered, "They won't get away with this. I'm going to expose this for all of you." Now let me tell you, Piper wasn't wrong to feel blindsided. These solo traveler surcharges are a nasty little secret in the airline industry, a direct consequence of those sophisticated dynamic pricing algorithms. Airlines use complex computer models to predict demand and adjust prices in real time, sometimes every few minutes. They've discovered that solo travelers often have less flexibility and are more likely to pay a premium for specific seats or convenience. This allows them to quietly charge single flyers significantly more than if the same seat was part of a multiple-person booking. I've seen it firsthand. A seat that might cost $159 per person if booked for 2 people can suddenly jump to $254 for a single traveler, for the exact same flight, exact same seat, booked just moments apart. It's not about the physical seat. It's about the perceived value and the algorithm's estimation of your willingness to pay. So, how do you fight back against this algorithmic trickery? First, always check the granular fare breakdown online, not just the final price. Look for any obscure fees that pop up late in the booking process. Secondly, become a master of anonymity. Use incognito browser modes, clear your cookies regularly, and even try checking prices on different devices or IP addresses. Those algorithms remember your past searches and can jack up prices if they sense urgency. My most radical advice? If you're looking at a significantly inflated price for a solo ticket, consider booking 2 refundable tickets, then canceling one after the initial purchase has gone through. Just be absolutely certain of the cancellation policies and timelines before you try this, because you don't want to get stuck with 2 seats. It sounds extreme, but it exploits the price discrepancies airlines create. This isn't just about saving a few dollars. It's about playing their game smarter. Stay tuned, because next I'm going to show you how a hidden boarding pass lottery could cost you your perfect seat even after you've paid for it. I've spent 50 years in this industry, and what I'm about to tell you could save you from missing a critical flight, even if you've already paid for your seat. Just last month, Jeremy Vance, a sharp business consultant in his mid-30s from New York, was heading to London for a high-stakes meeting. He breezed into JFK International Airport, radiating confidence. He'd pre-registered his facial recognition data, believing those sleek, futuristic biometric gates were his fast track through security. Jeremy imagined himself sailing past the lines, a picture of modern efficiency. He stepped up to the dedicated biometric boarding gate. A green light flashed, and then nothing. The scanner stubbornly refused to verify him, a persistent red light pulsing, accompanied by an insistent, low-frequency buzz that felt like a growing headache. An automated voice prompted him, "Please rescan your boarding pass. Facial verification failed." He tried again, feeling a prickle of unease. Still that angry red light. Agent Davies, a patient TSA officer in her early 40s, walked over. Her expression was practiced, but I could tell she'd seen this situation 100 times. "Sir, can I help you?" she asked, her voice calm amidst the growing chaos of other impatient travelers. Jeremy explained his issue, frustration creeping into his tone. Agent Davies gently pointed out, "Did you recently get new eyeglasses, sir? And have you renewed your passport lately?" Jeremy, flustered, admitted he had, in fact, picked up a new pair of specs just last week, and his passport had been updated a month prior, slightly changing the embedded photo. That small, almost imperceptible difference was enough. The system, designed for precision, saw a stranger. Jeremy's confidence vanished, replaced by a cold wave of panic. He suddenly recalled the strict 45-minute check-in deadline for international flights posted by United Airlines, a detail he'd barely registered. With less than an hour to spare, he was trapped. The system he'd trusted for speed had become his biggest hurdle. He found himself sprinting across the bustling terminal, dodging confused travelers and families with mountains of luggage, desperately searching for the manual verification line. His heart hammered in his chest as he watched the clock tick down, the minutes slipping away like sand. He finally boarded his flight, breathless and utterly drained, with less than 5 minutes to spare. Jeremy's experience is a critical lesson. While biometrics offer a vision of effortless travel, they also carry a hidden vulnerability. Airlines are rapidly adopting these high-tech gates, but even the slightest alteration to your appearance or identification can trigger a system rejection. A new haircut, different glasses, or a recently updated passport with a slightly tweaked photo. These seemingly minor details can throw a wrench into what should be a smooth process, leading to significant delays or, far worse, missing your flight entirely. It's a reminder that relying solely on technology without understanding its limitations can be a trap. So, how do you avoid Jeremy's near disaster? My first piece of advice is fundamental. Always carry your physical documents. Yes, even if you're using facial recognition. That means your actual passport, your physical boarding pass if you can get one, and any other required identification. Secondly, don't just meet the airline's stated deadlines. Exceed them. Arrive at the airport significantly earlier than the airline recommends, especially for international travel. An extra 30 or 60 minutes can be the difference between making your flight and being stranded. Third, proactively update your biometric profiles with your chosen airlines or airport systems. If you get new glasses, change your hair dramatically, or renew your passport, take the extra step to re-upload your current image or re-register. Many airline apps and airport websites now offer this feature. And finally, if you're uncomfortable with biometric scanning for any reason, or if you suspect your appearance might have changed, simply opt for a manual check. You have that right.
Tell the agent, "I'd prefer to go through manual verification, please." Don't let the allure of convenience override your better judgment. This knowledge puts the control back in your hands. Now, are you ready to learn about the hidden fees for baggage that even the most seasoned travelers miss? You think you've got it all figured out, don't you? You meticulously measured your carry-on, confident it would fit perfectly in that little metal sizer back home. You arrive at the airport feeling smug, maybe even a little victorious. But then, as you step up to the gate, an agent, often with a slight smile that hints at impending trouble, rolls out a new challenge. It's something designed to trip you up, even when you're certain you followed every single rule. Picture this. Sarah, a vibrant mom in her mid-30s, stood with her husband, Tom, and their two excited kids, a 6-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy, at the Southwest Gate in Los Angeles. Their destination? Disney World. Pure magic. They'd spent weeks carefully planning, right down to measuring their carry-on bags to ensure they fit the airline's stated dimensions. They were certain they were in the clear, especially since they'd shelled out for a specific brand known for its guaranteed fit. The kids were practically bouncing, pointing at the planes outside, their small voices adding to the general din of a crowded gate area. But as they approached the counter, Mr. Henderson, the gate agent, a man in his mid-50s with weary eyes, greeted them not with a boarding pass scanner, but with a portable digital baggage scale. It wasn't tucked away, it was prominently displayed, practically an obstacle. Sarah, her smile faltering, watched as Mr. Henderson politely asked her to place her seemingly compliant bag onto the scale. She did, a nervous flutter starting in her stomach. The screen flashed, 18 pounds. Her heart sank. Southwest's newly enforced carry-on weight limit, as of 2025, was a strict 15 pounds. Her perfectly sized bag was 3 pounds over. A sudden, sharp panic seized the family. Mr. Henderson, unblinking, explained their options. A $75 gate check fee for the overweight bag, or the unthinkable, missing their flight to Orlando. The kids, sensing the shift in mood, grew quiet, their Disney dreams suddenly under threat. Tom tried to reason, pointing out the bag fit the sizer, but Mr. Henderson simply shrugged, citing the weight, not just dimensions policy. What followed was a humiliating, frantic scramble right there at the gate. The Millers tore open the bag, pulling out souvenirs, a few heavy books, and even a pair of shoes, desperately trying to redistribute the weight into smaller personal bags, all while the boarding line snaked around them. The overhead bins, they could see, were already looking quite full, adding to the pressure. They salvaged what they could, discarding a few non-essentials into a trash can nearby, making their Disney World trip start with a bitter taste. Here's the thing. Many airlines, especially the budget carriers, are getting incredibly strict with carry-on weight limits. And some, like Southwest in this instance, are quietly rolling out new limits, or suddenly enforcing old ones with an iron fist, often ambushing passengers only at the gate. They know you're already stressed, already past security, and facing a tight deadline. This isn't just about safety. It's a calculated move to generate more ancillary revenue. That $75 fee adds up fast when dozens of unsuspecting travelers get caught. The Miller family learned the hard way that simply knowing the stated dimensions isn't enough. You have to anticipate the enforcement of rules you didn't even know existed. So, how do you avoid a gateside meltdown like the Millers? My advice is simple, yet crucial. First, invest in a portable luggage scale. They're inexpensive, fit in your pocket, and give you peace of mind. Use it every single time you pack a carry-on. Second, always aim to pack at least 1 or 2 pounds below the airline's stated weight limit. If the limit is 15 pounds, try to keep your bag to 13 or 14. This gives you a buffer against different scales or slight variations. Third, be strategic. Heavy items like books, electronics, or dense clothing should go into your personal item, your backpack or purse, which typically doesn't have a weight limit, only size restrictions. Finally, don't just trust the sizer. Even if your bag fits perfectly, it doesn't guarantee compliance with a weight rule. Check your airline's website for specific carry-on weight restrictions, not just size. Many passengers overlook this critical detail, assuming fitting the box is the only hurdle. This simple preparation can save you dozens, if not hundreds of dollars, and a ton of family stress. This was a classic case of an unexpected fee. But what about the fees you pay for convenience that you could easily avoid? Next, I'll tell you about the secret to getting free services at the airport that airlines hope you never discover. We just talked about how a portable luggage scale and smart packing can save you from unexpected carry-on fees. Those hidden charges are one thing, but what about the kind of fees that don't just hit your wallet, but could ground your entire journey before it even begins? After spending 50 years in aviation, I've seen countless passengers caught off guard by rules they never even knew existed, rules that change constantly. This next story, about a wonderful woman named Eleanor, shines a spotlight on exactly that kind of trap. And trust me, it's one you absolutely want to avoid. Picture Eleanor Dawson, a retired schoolteacher in her late 60s from Springfield, Illinois. She was practically glowing with excitement. Eleanor had dreamed of seeing Edinburgh Castle and the Scottish Highlands for years, and this was her big trip to visit her sister. She arrived at the British Airways counter at Chicago O'Hare International Airport a full 3 hours before her flight, feeling utterly prepared. She handed her passport to Maria Sanchez, the agent, a sharp woman in her early 40s. Maria scanned Eleanor's documents, tapped on her keyboard for a moment, and then her expression turned serious. "Mrs. Dawson," Maria said, her voice dropping slightly, "it appears you don't have the mandatory UK electronic travel authorization. It's been required for all transit and destination travelers to the United Kingdom since January 8, 2025. Eleanor's heart sank like a stone. She blinked, trying to process the words. An electronic travel authorization? She had her passport, her boarding pass. What was this? The thought of her dream trip unraveling right there at the check-in counter was crushing. Maria, seeing the distress wash over Eleanor's face, offered a ray of hope. "We can try to apply for it now, but it will take some time, and there's no guarantee it will be approved before boarding closes.
What followed was a frantic 30-minute scramble at the counter. Maria patiently guided Eleanor through the online application on a tablet, helping her navigate through personal details and payment. The clock ticked loudly, each second feeling like a minute. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the approval came through, just 15 minutes before the gate was scheduled to close. Eleanor nearly wept with relief, but the stress had already taken its toll. It's a stark reminder that international border rules are not static. They're constantly evolving.
What was permissible last year, or even last month, might be a non-starter today. That UK ETA, for example, is a $20 document, but without it, Eleanor's trip would have been over before it started. The mistake travelers often make is assuming their passport is enough. But many countries now require pre-authorization, even for short visits or layovers. My advice? Weeks, not days before your departure, you need to visit the official government travel websites for every country you'll be transiting through and your final destination. Don't rely on travel blogs or outdated advice. Check the official source for the most up-to-date entry requirements. But her journey wasn't out of the woods yet. Or rather, for a businessman like Gregory Miller, a marketing executive from Boston in his late 40s, his own carefully planned itinerary nearly fell apart over a seemingly minor detail. He was rushing through O'Hare, relieved to have cleared his own international authorization hurdle, and had finally reached the TSA security checkpoint. He put his carry-on, jacket, and shoes in the bins, then walked through the scanner. As he retrieved his belongings, a loud alarm blared. Officer Kim, a friendly woman in her 30s, waved him over. "Sir, it looks like there's an item in your checked bag that shouldn't be there." Gregory was confused. His checked bag? He'd handed it off at the British Airways counter. "Your power bank," Officer Kim explained gently. "It needs to be in your carry-on, easily accessible, and clearly labeled with its capacity. After some recent incidents, this rule is strictly enforced internationally." "We'll need you to retrieve your bag from baggage handling." Can you imagine? After all the effort to plan a critical business trip, now this. Gregory had completely forgotten about his power bank, a small, unlabeled device which he'd tucked into his large suitcase. It meant another 20-minute delay, a frantic call to baggage services, and a whole lot more anxiety just to get that power bank out and into his carry-on. He almost missed his flight a second time. Here's the deal with power banks. They are a fire risk. Batteries can overheat, and if they do, having them in the cargo hold where no one can get to them is a serious safety hazard. That's why you must carry them in your cabin bag. Furthermore, many airlines and security checkpoints, especially after 2025, require them to be clearly labeled with their watt-hour capacity. If it's not labeled, it can be confiscated. Always keep your power banks in your carry-on bag, and make sure they're easy to pull out for inspection if asked. Don't just toss them in, organize them. This small detail might seem trivial, but it can trigger an alarm, lead to a bag search, and cost you precious minutes or even your entire flight. Don't let a $20 power bank cost you hundreds in missed flights. These small details truly make or break your international journey. I've been in aviation for 5 decades, and I can tell you, the unexpected always finds a way to surprise even the most seasoned flyers. Most travelers think their premium perks are set in stone, but trust me, things are changing fast. What used to be a given is now a carefully controlled commodity,
and a tight connection can absolutely cost you your flight if you're not paying close attention. Here's a story about Eleanor, a spirited 62-year-old from Boston. She's a frequent traveler, often flying to California to visit her grandchildren.
On a recent trip through Dallas-Fort Worth International, she planned to slip into the Centurion Lounge during her 2-hour layover for a quiet cup of tea and to catch up on some reading. For years, her premium credit card had granted her unlimited access, a comfort she'd grown accustomed to. The familiar glow of the lounge sign seemed to promise a moment of peace, as it always had. She presented her boarding pass and credit card to the attendant, a polite young woman named Olivia. Olivia scanned her card, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Miss Hayes," she said, "it looks like you've reached your 10-visit annual limit for complimentary Centurion Lounge access." Eleanor blinked, bewildered. A limit? She'd never encountered such a thing. Olivia gently explained that after 2025, most premium card holders are now capped at 10 complimentary visits per calendar year.
You can still enter, of course, Olivia offered, but there will be a fee of $50. Eleanor felt a pang of frustration. $50 for a lounge she considered a standard perk? It felt like a subtle betrayal of her loyalty. She eventually paid the $50, the brief moment of planned relaxation now tainted with the bitter taste of a shrinking premium benefit. So what can we learn from Eleanor's close call? Always track your lounge visit limits. Many credit card companies, especially after 2025, have silently introduced a cap, usually between 10 and 15 visits per year. Don't just assume your access is unlimited. Dive into the fine print of your card benefits online or give your card issuer a call. Know exactly what you're entitled to before you get to the airport. This knowledge can save you $50, $100, or more in unexpected fees and a lot of frustration.
Now, let me tell you about David, a 38-year-old software engineer from San Francisco. He was on a tight 100-minute connection at Houston Intercontinental, flying to a major tech conference in Austin. He'd meticulously planned his itinerary, figuring that 100 minutes was ample time, especially since his inbound flight often landed early. He anticipated a smooth sprint from his arriving gate to his connecting flight, ready to tackle a busy day of presentations. As he deplaned, already slightly delayed by a slow exit from the aircraft, he checked his Southwest Airlines app for his gate. A notification popped up that sent a chill down his spine. New check-in deadline, 45 minutes prior to departure. David's mind raced. He was almost exactly 45 minutes from his departure time, but he still had to navigate Houston's sprawling terminals. He'd always relied on the old 30-minute rule, which, in his experience, often meant even 20 minutes was fine. He started walking briskly, then broke into a full-out run, his laptop bag thudding against his back. The terminal seemed to stretch for miles, and the digital signs for Gate C11, his flight to Austin, felt impossibly distant. He could hear the final boarding announcements echoing over the intercom, each one a hammer blow to his chest. He pushed harder, his lungs burning. When he finally reached Gate C11, the gate agent was in the process of closing the boarding door. "Wait!" David gasped, throwing his arms out just as the door clicked shut. The agent, a woman with a sympathetic expression, reopened it just enough for him to squeeze through. He made it, barely, a terrifying near miss that reinforced just how little margin for error we have these days. For connections, especially in vast hubs like Houston Intercontinental, Dallas-Fort Worth, or Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson, you simply must build in more time.
I advise travelers to always aim for at least 2.5 to 3 hours between connecting flights, even if the airline says 90 minutes is fine. Airlines operate on the bare minimum, but you need a buffer for the inevitable delays, like a slight delay deplaning, a slow walk to a distant gate, or, as David found, a sudden change in check-in deadlines. These new, stricter deadlines are non-negotiable, and they're being enforced with zero leniency. Make sure you have the airline's app on your phone and check it religiously for real-time gate changes and delays. The flight path to freedom in 2025 isn't about avoiding rules, it's about mastering them. Being prepared, knowing the rules, and planning for the unexpected is your best defense against missed flights and unnecessary stress.
Let me introduce you to the Miller family. Mark, Sarah, and their 2 young children, 5-year-old Lily and 7-year-old Tom. They were flying from Denver to Orlando for a much-anticipated theme park vacation. At the check-in counter, Sarah handed over their 2 large suitcases, brimming with swimsuits, souvenirs, and all the gear a family needs for a week-long trip. They were excited, chatting about roller coasters and cartoon characters. The agent, however, placed their bags on the scale, her finger hovering over the screen. "Ma'am," she said, "it looks like both of your bags are overweight. One is 58 pounds, and the other is 56 pounds. Our limit is 50 pounds per bag." Mark's smile faltered. He had sworn he'd checked the weight. He'd even used their old bathroom scale, which, as it turned out, wasn't perfectly calibrated. "That will be an extra $100 per bag, sir," the agent continued. "So $200 total." The family's vacation budget, already stretched thin, took an instant hit. They debated frantically, trying to redistribute clothes between bags, but it was too late. The line behind them grew, and the children started to get antsy. Mark sheepishly pulled out his credit card, the joy of the upcoming vacation slightly diminished by the unexpected charge. To avoid these frustrating and expensive baggage fees, here's my advice. Invest in a small, portable luggage scale. They're inexpensive, usually around $20, and incredibly accurate. Weigh your bags at home and leave a few pounds of wiggle room, especially if you plan to buy souvenirs. Most airlines strictly enforce a 50-pound weight limit for standard economy bags, and the fees for going over can be $50 to $100 per bag. Don't rely on your bathroom scale. It's often off by a few pounds, and those few pounds can cost you big. Consider Susan, a 28-year-old freelance photographer flying from Miami to New York for a critical client shoot. Her carry-on held her valuable camera equipment and a small bag of liquids for her contact lenses and toiletries. She was meticulous, always double-checking her gear, and had flown with this setup countless times. She breezed through security, confident in her preparations. However, at the TSA checkpoint, an officer pulled her bag aside for a secondary inspection. He reached in, pulling out her clear plastic bag of liquids. "Ma'am," he said, holding up a bottle of contact lens solution, "this bottle is 4.5 ounces. It needs to be 3.4 ounces or less." Susan's heart sank. She'd purchased the solution weeks ago, thinking it was within the rules. She pleaded, explaining that she couldn't see without her contact lenses, and this was her only bottle. The officer was polite, but firm. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it's above the limit. You'll have to discard it or check your bag." Checking her bag was out of the question. Her camera gear was too valuable.
she had to throw away a brand new bottle of contact lens solution, scrambling to find a smaller replacement in a ridiculously overpriced airport convenience store, almost missing her flight in the process. The TSA's 311 rule, 3.4 ounces or less per container, in a 1-quart-sized bag, 1 bag per passenger, is non-negotiable, and it applies to all liquids, gels, and aerosols. Always check the container size, not just how much is inside. Many standard, travel-sized items are exactly 3.4 ounces, but larger travel sizes can easily exceed this. Before heading to the airport, lay out all your liquids. If anything looks suspicious, assume it's too big. You can buy TSA-compliant refillable bottles for less than $10 at any drugstore. This simple check can save you from frantic searches, last-minute purchases, and the stress of a potential missed flight. Let's talk about George, a 75-year-old retired teacher from Portland, known for his calm demeanor and love of routine. He was flying to visit his sister in Arizona, a trip he made twice a year. He arrived at his gate, C-21, at Los Angeles International, with plenty of time to spare, found a comfortable seat, and settled in to read his newspaper, assuming all was well. He heard announcements over the intercom, but they sounded muffled and indistinct, just background noise. About 15 minutes before boarding was scheduled to begin, he noticed a flurry of activity around the gate. A few people looked confused, pointing at their phones. George didn't pay much mind, still engrossed in his crossword puzzle. Suddenly, a young woman tapped him on the shoulder.
"Excuse me, sir," she said, "but your flight to Phoenix just moved to gate B34. They announced it about 20 minutes ago." George's jaw dropped. He looked up at the departure board, and indeed, his flight was now listed at a completely different terminal, miles away. He quickly gathered his belongings, a knot forming in his stomach. A gate change, especially at a sprawling airport like LAX, is one of the most common reasons people miss flights. He made it, barely, but the panic of almost missing his flight overshadowed the rest of his journey. Here's my golden rule for gate changes. Never rely solely on audible announcements. Most major airports are massive, noisy, and announcements can easily be missed or misunderstood. Instead, download your airline's app to your smartphone and enable push notifications. Check the airport's digital departure boards frequently, not just when you first arrive at your gate. I recommend checking every 30 minutes or so. A gate change isn't always announced loudly or clearly, and it's up to you to stay informed. A quick glance at the screen can save you a stressful sprint across terminals or, worse, a missed flight. Meet Jessica, a 22-year-old college student on her way home for summer break, flying from Atlanta to Chicago. Like many students, she was trying to save every dollar, so she opted for the cheapest fare possible, basic economy. She figured it was just like regular economy, but a little less flexible. She arrived at Hartsfield-Jackson with a small carry-on roller bag and a backpack, planning to stow her roller in the overhead bin as always. At the boarding gate, the agent, a no-nonsense woman with a headset, stopped her. "Ma'am," she said, "your basic economy ticket only includes a personal item that fits under the seat. Your roller bag must be checked, and there's a $50 fee." Jessica was stunned. She'd never had to check her carry-on before. She argued that her bag easily fit the dimensions for overhead bins, but the agent was firm. "Basic economy rules, ma'am. It's clearly stated when you purchase the ticket." Jessica fumbled for her credit card,
embarrassed and frustrated, as a line formed behind her. The $50 fee for her carry-on erased all the savings she thought she'd made by choosing the cheaper ticket. The flight felt less like a homecoming and more like a lesson learned the hard way. Basic economy fares are designed to be cheap, but they come with significant restrictions that can quickly turn into hidden costs. Before you click Buy, meticulously read what's included and, more importantly, what's not. Often, basic economy means no seat selection, no changes, and critically, no standard carry-on bag for the overhead bin. Only a personal item that fits under the seat. If you show up with a roller bag, you'll be charged a gate check fee, which is often $50 to $75, far more than the difference between basic and standard economy. My advice? If you need to bring anything more than a backpack, skip basic economy. The perceived savings are rarely worth the stress and the inevitable extra fees. This brings us to Carlos, a 45-year-old small business owner from Los Angeles. He was flying to Mexico City for a quick 2-day vendor meeting. He'd made this trip dozens of times, always with just his driver's license and his company ID. He figured since it was a short business trip and he wasn't going far, his usual identification would be sufficient. He walked up to the check-in counter at LAX, ready to get his boarding pass. The airline agent smiled politely. "Mr. Rodriguez," she began, "I'm sorry, but we cannot check you in without a valid passport." Carlos was dumbfounded.
A passport? But I've been to Mexico City countless times with just my ID.
The agent explained.
Sir, as of 2026, new regulations require all air travelers, even to Mexico and Canada, to present a valid U.S. passport for international travel. Your driver's license is no longer sufficient.
Carlos felt a wave of panic. His meeting was tomorrow morning. There was no way he could get an emergency passport in time. He frantically called his office, explaining the situation, but the deal was dependent on his presence. He had to cancel his flight, missing the meeting and potentially losing a significant contract. Passport and visa requirements are constantly changing, and they are absolutely non-negotiable for international travel. Never assume your previous travel experience will suffice. Before every single international trip, even to countries you've visited before, check the specific entry requirements for your destination country through the U.S.
State Department's website or the embassy of the country you're visiting.
Pay close attention to passport validity. Many countries require your passport to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your planned return date. This simple 10-minute check can save you from being denied boarding and losing out on vital trips, whether for business or pleasure. Finally, let's talk about the Chang family. David, Maria, and their 15-year-old daughter, Sophia. They were flying from Chicago to San Juan, Puerto Rico, for a much-anticipated family reunion, their first in years. They arrived at O'Hare International full of excitement, only to see "canceled" flashing next to their flight number on the departure board. A huge storm had unexpectedly swept through the region, grounding flights. They rushed to the customer service counter, joining a long, agitated line. When it was finally their turn, the agent offered them a rebooked flight for 2 days later. David was frustrated.
2 days? We'll miss the reunion.
He asked about other options, perhaps another airline. The agent shrugged, saying it was the best they could do. David felt helpless, resigned to the delay. But then an experienced traveler behind him chimed in. "Sir,
If your flight is canceled due to an airline controllable reason or a significant delay, you're entitled to more. Ask about rebooking on partner airlines, hotel vouchers, and meal coupons. David took the advice, pressing the agent. After some back and forth, the agent found them seats on a partner airline departing in just 6 hours, arranged for a meal voucher, and even offered a partial credit for the inconvenience. The Changs still had a delay, but it was manageable, and their reunion was saved. When your flight is canceled or significantly delayed, don't just accept the first offer. You have rights as a passenger.
If the cancellation is due to something within the airline's control, mechanical issues, crew shortages, they are often obligated to rebook you on the next available flight, even if it's on a competing airline. They may also provide meal vouchers, and if an overnight stay is required, a hotel room and ground transportation. Politely but firmly, ask about all your options. Are there any flights on partner airlines? What compensation can you offer for this delay? Check your airline's contract of carriage online. It details their responsibilities. Knowing your rights can turn a travel nightmare into a manageable hiccup, saving your vacation or crucial business trip. As you can see, the world of air travel is constantly evolving, with new rules and subtle shifts emerging all the time. From hidden fees for lounge access and baggage, to strict new deadlines for connections, and ever-changing requirements for international travel, it's easy to get caught off guard. But here's the key. Knowledge is your ultimate tool. By understanding these common pitfalls and knowing the practical steps to avoid them, you can transform your travel experience from a source of stress into a journey of smooth sailing. Stay informed, stay prepared, and you'll navigate the skies like a seasoned pro. Save these insights before your next flight and share them with anyone who travels often. It could save them hundreds of dollars and countless headaches.